Hey, what's up people? It's KCKL back here with another video. Today, I'm going to be doing another road company video, but this is a bit different. This is going to be about tips and tricks. This more covers beginner sort of stuff, but it can sometimes apply to some professionals who may not know these sort of tips. But, hey, sorry for not uploading for a while, and, yeah, I think from now on, I'll be uploading daily. Before, I was only uploading 2 times a day. I think that was a bit much, so I'm gonna just do one video per day. Okay, so the first tip that I have to say to beginner players is that it's about more committing to more angles than usual. Now, what does that mean? That means that if you shoot someone, but you don't down him, like to the point of which he's dead, right? What does that mean for your team? Sorry, not for your team, for the enemy team. That means they know where you are, right? And so that means that the person can call out to his team, that dude's over there, you better get him, and stuff like that, right? Now, this can also apply, because voice chat still happens even if you're dead, right? So, if once you get an elimination, you might just want to move out of there. Now, I'm not saying kill the person, then run, right? That's not the tactic that I'm talking about. The tactic that I'm talking about is more, you need to reposition yourself every time you take a shot. If you are by yourself, that is usually what you would do. You would never stay in one spot, because there's like tons of flanking positions and other things like that that can really, really be fatal and the key to your survival, right? So that's one thing that we have to talk about. We have to talk about how you can't really just camp there. If you have a team, maybe one person watches the flanks and then the three of you just focus on fire, right? That's a very viable option as well, alright? Now, there's another thing that I want to talk about for more beginner players is reviving wrongly. Now, I'm not saying, oh, you can do it faster or anything like that. I'm saying more things like always trying to get the revive. Now, I appreciate that you guys want to help your team, you want to keep them alive, you want to do all that sort of stuff, but in return, if there is fire, if there's people coming in, if people are downed, what does that mean to that person? That means that they are in the heat of a gun battle. That means that they lost that gun battle, and now the enemy team is going to push forward, right? Because they've eliminated your first line of defense, or something like that, right? So you should not focus on trying to get one player up and then risk you getting down as well. You need to focus on the immediate threat, and then you need to come back and try help to get the revive off, right? That's very key to how you're gonna win sort of every gun battle. And then it would be better if one person dies than rather both of you die, because when you are downed, right, you only start with 30 HP. Anvil's MLX more, which is easily one of the best guns in the game, right, is very, very scary. 2 taps to the head and that person's downed again, and when you're reviving, you don't have any chance of retaliation at all, right? Unless you're Saint, then you use your drone to revive the person, then you go straight for the kill, right? So it's very, you need to focus more on focusing to protect the patient and then get them up, rather than trying to get the patient up, then he dies and you die, then you lose 2 people instead of 1 person, right? So you don't always just want to step into the line of fire, if you know what I mean. Alright, the next thing I want to talk about is more vocal confidence, like as a team, right? In vocal confidence, you need to be very confident and just say, one person goes here. If you're the only one who's running voice chat at that point in time, you got to be very confident. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't hide back in the, like, behind everyone. You just got to be confident. If you're the only one who's running voice chat, you really need to be confident. Show your team that you trust them. You be like, okay, we got to do this, and this to keep ourselves alive. And if you're the only one, then you're basically like the captain of the team. You have to tell them where to go, because the others can't communicate unless they're in some third-party thing like PlayStation chat or something like that, right? So that is another thing you have to keep in mind. If you don't show confidence in your team by saying, okay, we can do this, right, then your team will just go, he doesn't trust us, why should we trust him? That's basically the mentality that they'll think. Now, I'm not saying that the road company community is very bad and very, like, shut off and toxic. No, they're actually pretty nice, and you will make a lot of friends in this sort of situation. But, yeah, you just gotta be mindful, be confident, show trust in your team. The next thing I want to talk about is shooting. Now, this is a very important thing, right? Shooting is the core parts of Rogue Company in its own nature, right? Now, aiming, when you hold down the L2 button or the LT button, or on PC, I'm pretty sure it's the right side of the mouse, right? When you aim, you restrict your movement. You go very slow. Now, there are perks in Rogue Company to get rid of that thing. It's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure it's called Stalker, right? But to really win a gunfight, you need to have speed and violence, right? If you lose one of them, you lose them all. So you need to be careful. You need to dodge roll. You need to use your abilities. But more importantly, you just spam that fire button. Of course, you use the right stick to look at the opponent. Then when they're in your crosshairs, you fire at them. Of course, you don't want to fully aim because that slows down your aiming, makes you an easier target, then the opponent will hip fire you straight off, which is what it's called, hip firing. I don't actually aim. But at certain ranges, like as you can see right now in the background footage, as you can see, there's really no point of hip firing. We're not actually in a gunfight right now. It's just if I'm watching the doorway, so that if anyone comes down that doorway, I have a certain aiming spot on that doorway. At certain ranges, yes, you will need to aim. Certain guns are not made for long range engagements and stuff like that. So it is pretty handy sometimes to aim, but it's not all the time. I see many beginner players try just fully aim at their target, makes an easy target, right? The next thing that I want to talk about is in 1v1 situations where your team has one person and the other team has one person. Now, this is very hard, right? Now, in most other games, they encourage you to keep jumping, make yourself a harder target, make them hit the legs or something like that so you take less damage. In Rogue Company, you need to use your full movement arsenal of dodge rolling, crouching, and different things like that. So jumping, for example, right, is still a viable option. If you jump, you still make yourself a harder target. But in Rogue Company, they encourage you to do the opposite, and they just tell you to spam the crouch button, like regardless, right? This is very viable tactic, and many players use it to just get out of a gunfight and stuff like that. They just dodge roll, jump, then crouch, dodge roll, jump, crouch. Right? It's a very viable option. I feel like it can actually work, like if you know what you're doing, right? The next thing that I want to talk about is the C4. Now, C4 is easily one of the best explosives in the game. Can easily eliminate all enemies. And can be detonated remotely, so you won't need a grenade or anything like that. It detonates remotely off the bat, right? Now, what you may think is, okay, that's pretty good, so what's so bad about it? The bad thing is, when you detonate it, right, there's an actual animation that takes some time to do, right? So what do you have to do in that time? Well, you can't really do anything. You cannot retaliate, you cannot do anything in that time. So what I would recommend is you never use it in the thick of a gunfight, as in when you're in the middle of a gunfight, right, you're behind no cover, you definitely do not use the C4, right? They've compromised your cover, anything like that, yeah, you're done, basically, right? So, exactly what do you do then? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. You can try shooting them, you can try other stuff like that, but it is very hard to try get the dub just with C4. What I would recommend is if you're doing a 1v1 situation, you are holding a corner, you are holding a position, right? Holding a very specific position, right? You've got the other side covered, you're playing as Talon. Actually, speaking of which, a lot has happened in these last 2 weeks, actually. I've unlocked Talon, actually, so, yeah, and Chak, so that's also something to keep in mind. I will be making videos on those people very soon, so yeah, but anyway, what happens is that if you use your C4 as a certain anchor point of your team, you want to camp there and you want to get that C4, that's what you want to do, right? You want to do it to prepare for a gunfight. You don't want it to do it, like, just, I guess, after in the thick of it, and obviously not after, because after it's not going to do anything unless you're preparing for another gunfire, right? The next thing that I want to talk about is being smart and resourceful. Now, I'm not saying that you guys are dumb, I'm just saying that you guys have to be resourceful with what you have, use your passives with you, and then that sort of stuff. So, what I mean by that, well, let's say you're Anvil, as you can see on screen currently, if you're Anvil, you will know that Anvil's passive ability, which is his ability as a passive, right, doesn't help him do damage or anything like that, right, is he gains immunity to blinding effects. And Anvil doesn't have a flashbang, but if you pick one up off the ground, right, if you pick one off the ground, just if you have like a Talon or someone like that, right, you can easily just throw it on the ground in the thick of a gunfight, and then quickly, bada bing, bada boom, everyone else is stunned around you, even your own team, right? And you can escape from that gunfight. You can quickly reload your weapon. You can quickly do what you need to do. You can quickly do that. You can quickly get up and do your thing, right? Alright, so that's one way to be resourceful. For Talon, for example, using your radar dart to set up traps around the place, maybe putting Talon's C4, which is a great way to set up traps. Put your radar dart, then your C4 on top, can see the enemy. As soon as he approaches that area, bada bing, bada boom, he's dead. Nothing else you can do about that, right? For Chak, for example, he has the ability to heal himself. He doesn't need any healer or doesn't need anyone to revive him, right? So if you're now in the thick of a gunfight, he has the Semtex grenade, but if you manage to pick up a grenade and you just manage to cook it, which basically means you hold the L1 button or the LB button or the, I'm not sure what ability is on the PC, but when you hold it for long enough, it just explodes in your hand. You can't really do much about it, right? So when it explodes in your hand, it will usually end you, unless you have tenacity, right? And obviously, if Chak overheals himself before the fight, he won't take as much damage. He gets like 175 health from that. It's super overpowered, but only for 15 seconds. So yeah, it is pretty overpowered. All right, so you can obviously use that to like help you. Like you can just down everyone around you for a second, then soon everyone's like they're all dead, and you're just there in the corner. You heal yourself. You're in the thick of a gunfight. You manage to take out like what 3 people, and your team lays down covering fire as you manage to revive yourself. It's a pretty good tactic to use. So that's what I would recommend. For Ronin, for example, her passive is Underground, right, which gives the enemy team less information. This can also be really helpful, as you can, for example, just hide in a corner and then use grenades or something like that. Throw it out when they least expect it. And if they have Talon's radar dart, Talon will be like, where's that coming from? And then you actually have to go there to find out where the actual person is. So just be resourceful with your passives like that. The next thing that I want to talk about is tips about more general sort of tips that you have to create for like different firefight tactics and other stuff like that, right? So the one thing that I have to say about firefighting is always swapping your shoulders. This is a very easy and useful tactic to learn. Swapping your shoulders, you gotta make use that you have a third person perspective. Many other games like this don't have a third person type thing, and you can't really do much about it, right? So when you have a third person, what does that mean, right? That means that you can see a lot more. You can see behind you, right? And so you can use your R1 ability or RB ability or whatever to try get more of a view, like a 180, maybe even better, maybe even like a 270 type view. I don't know, to be honest, right? But you can use it to just continuously keep up with what you're doing, and then yeah, it'll be very good to see how you can create this sort of thing. The next thing that I also want to talk about is just buying the right ranks and other things like that, buying the right perks and stuff. So usually in Demolition, you only start with 4,000 credits or money or whatever, right? Now, what does that mean? That means that you can't buy your primary weapon, but you can buy things like C4, flashbangs, your melee weapon, all that sort of stuff. I would always say never invest in a melee weapon. They're kind of a waste of time unless you're just messing around. Melee weapons are a one-hit kill, but they are extremely hard to throw, right? And even then, they're really easy to dodge. You can dodge roll pretty easily around them. It's not that hard to dodge roll them. And so that's basically it. But in Demolition, the first thing that you always want to, like, I don't know what to say, like, buy is just upgrade your pistol once. That's it. You never buy any C4, you never buy anything like that, you just buy that thing once, right? You upgrade your pistol once, that's it. I would always recommend fully upgrade your pistol, so then the next round, if you lose, you have enough to buy your primary weapon, but at the same time, right, you get a benefit from that, but at the same time, the next round you manage to buy your primary weapon and you have a really good pistol. Then the next round after you win, I would recommend just fully upgrading your pistol, right? Your pistol is pretty much your savior when when your primary weapon runs out of bullets, and your primary weapon will run out of bullets. Like, there are times where I've played as Anvil or Talon or even Chak, and I've lost so many bullets from like 3 gunfights, and then I don't have anything. And then so that leads nicely into my next tip, which is actually using your enemy's weapons. Now, if you're playing Strikeout or something like that, right, it is extremely, and I mean extremely, hard to do anything, right? Extremely hard to do anything in Strikeout, right? It's very complicated, and it requires a lot. So Strikeouts basically, I don't think I've shown it on the channel. You have 12 tickets in between your teams. I'll explain it later, right? But if you see, okay, this person's wrecking us with their weapon, what weapon are they running? The next time you down them, you probably grab that weapon and say, hey, this weapon's pretty good. Then that also gives you a chance to think, what rogue should I get next? And so then that also leads into my next tip, which is just think about which rogue you're going to get. Now, some rogues may look cool, like I chose Anvil because he looked cool, but then found out he was also pretty practical in what he does, right? So that's what I did, right? But you should always have a list of the type of rogues that you're going to choose. So, for example, Anvil, right? Anvil was always my first pick. Then next would be Saint. The next one after that would be Dima, and then the next one after that would be Ronin. So you always got to have a list and think, okay, what do I do with this list? Alright, someone takes Anvil, I choose Saint. Someone takes Saint and Anvil, I choose Dima. If someone takes Saint, Anvil, and Dima, I choose Ronin, right? And you always got to get familiar with each rogue that you're going to choose. And then you also got to think, reputation is really a grind in this game. So what rogue are you going to get? That's the thing that you got to think, right? What rogue are you going to get from the get-go, right? If you have 15,000, 20,000 reputation, what are you going to do with that reputation? What are you going to do with it? Reputation is really hard to get in this game. It is extremely hard. So, yeah. But with that being said, that is going to have to be the end of it for this video. I will be uploading more throughout the day and throughout the week. I'm sorry for not uploading, but there will be some Chak videos coming out and some Talon videos coming out. So, bye for now.